artificial intelligence is technology to enable computers to think and act like humans. The White House intends to fuel this by cracking down on state laws seen as too restrictive to let the American AI revolution flourish. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says deregulation is key. And President Trump is expected to sign 3 AI executive orders late this afternoon. They are targeting so-called woke AI models with political bias, making it easier for companies to build data centers, and leveraging the government's development finance institution to encourage exports of this American technology. And let's count the receipts of the AI investments in the United States under the second Trump administration. $100 billion, $500 billion over 4 years, $90 billion in Pennsylvania alone, $800 million in Defense Department contracts, and that $500 billion deal with NVIDIA to build AI supercomputers in the United States. Now, last week, President Trump kick-started the AI push in Pennsylvania at a large gathering at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, hosted by Senator Dave McCormick. Ahead of today's announcement on AI, President Trump says the United States has a new trade deal with Japan.
I just signed the largest trade deal in history, I think maybe the largest deal in history, with Japan. We worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that.
As part of the new trade deal, the U.S. will impose a 15% tariff on Japanese imports. That's down from the threatened 25%. As you can see here, the Japanese have committed over $500 billion in new investments in the United States, and the U.S. will receive 90% of the profits. And Japan will also open up its borders for more American goods, including liquid nitrified gas from Alaska. And guys, it's a lot like Commodore Matthew Perry going into Japan in 1854 to open up that market, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here we are, ready to rock on the, someone is typing. What is that about? Is that ALX? Ah, ALX is on. Okay. ALX, tic-tac. ALX, you want to come on the stream? He hates it when I do that. Here, ladies and gentlemen, how about this? This is a live shot of the White House press pool. It's called a press pool because there used to be a pool there. It's super weird. I used to work in this room, and there's mice everywhere. And it's gross, and it leaks, and it's awful, and maybe it's where the press deserve to be. Ladies and gentlemen, Karoline Leavitt will be with us shortly. So very much to talk about. I'm sure she'll get plenty of questions on Epstein. I'm sure she'll get plenty of questions on Russiagate and Obamagate, and I'm sure you can imagine which reporters will ask which. We've learned so very much about the which behind the Russiagate collusion narrative. That would be Hillary Clinton. But she also had a helpful friend in Barack Hussein Obama. You know that Donald Trump is serious when he brings the Hussein into the Barack Hussein Obama, as he did yesterday. Donald Trump, from the White House, Oval Office, in front of the world's press on live TV yesterday, live on our program, said that Barack Hussein Obama is a traitor. And, well, what do we do to traitors, ladies and gentlemen? You bring them in and you charge them. Now, there's a real good explanation for all of this. And Klein, let's share my window, please. Real good explanation for this. Traitor, by definition, legally, is when you work with another country to usurp and destroy your country. And that would be the elegant and traditional definition of what a traitor is. And so what that looks like here is Barack Obama working with the Russians to destroy Donald Trump. Now, how did that work? Well, as we know now, the Steele dossier was used inside of the intelligence assessment. The Steele dossier was paid for by the Clinton campaign. They paid millions of dollars to Russian spies in order to create a fake document to take down Donald Trump. Now, this is the main subsource for all of this Russiagate activity is the fake document created by Russian spies. That would be directly working with a foreign government to take down the duly elected government in this nation. It's a proper Benedict Arnold move. It is treason by every conceivable measure. And now the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, who would, of course, be in charge of major investigative bodies asking questions of Barack Obama, has said he wants to subpoena Barack Obama over the Russia conspiracy. House Speaker Mike Johnson said Congress has to subpoena Barack Obama for allegedly colluding with American intelligence agencies to tie Donald Trump to Russia during the 2016 election. This was in an interview that just broke. It's a massive revelation, and obviously it's something that absolutely should happen. Here's the section of the interview that everybody is talking about here from CBN News. A spectacular question and a great answer. Here we go.
You say there must be accountability. The DOJ will work on the criminal aspect of this. What's the role of the House here specifically? I mean, people want to see subpoenas. They want to see depositions. They want to see whether it be Brennan, Clapper, potentially the president, the former president of the United States. Are you willing to go down that route? Because a lot of people want to see some of these folks questioned under oath.
Of course. Look, I think we have a responsibility to follow the truth where it leads and to do it in an unbiased fashion, to do effectively the opposite of what that other team did. They're engaged in a partisan political plot to take down their foe and the other party. We need to be about the rule of law and bringing order to the chaos and searching out the truth, because the American people are owed those answers. So we have some very bright, very capable, very strong leaders at Judiciary and Oversight, Chairman Jim Jordan, Chairman Jamie Comer, and the other committees that would be involved. And I do expect that whether there's a special counsel appointed, which some are suggesting, and or in conjunction with the House investigations, that we will get the answers, and there will be accountability to the extent that we're able to do that, referring people to the DOJ for prosecution and any other measure that is appropriate as we begin to uncover more of the facts.
Does it get tricky at all with the former president, President Obama, looking at what his role in this is and bringing him in for some sort of deposition, potential subpoena?
Well, listen, I mean, we have no concern about that. If it's uncomfortable for him, he shouldn't have been involved in overseeing this, which is what it appears to us has happened. There's a lot of allegations on the table. Our job is to go and follow each of those trails and to find out the truth. So those are very serious allegations with very serious implications, but we're going to have very serious people working on it, and we will get the answers.
Okay, I guess we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Johnson commentating that Barack Obama shouldn't have been a criminal if he doesn't want to be subpoenaed by Congress. Here we go. Speaker Johnson tells me that he has no concern about bringing former President Barack Obama in for congressional deposition or a subpoena over newly declassified documents. Bombshell. As we have been covering, nobody is above the law. This is significant. This is massive, says Matt Boyle. He's the congressional reporter for Breitbart.com. The Speaker of the House says that he has no issue compelling the testimony of a former president of the United States. Barack Obama has decided to volunteer this statement. He, of course, didn't write it. It doesn't make any sense. This is a nonsense statement that Barack Obama put out yesterday. Here we go. Out of respect for the office of the presidency, Donald Trump sucks. This is the opening of the statement. This is it. Listen to this. Out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of the White House with a response. Who the hell wrote that? You can tell they're under a lot of pressure by the reactions here. This reaction makes no sense at all. So we're going to dignify and respect the White House by attacking the president of the United States. Okay, first line, nonsense. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. The bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at a distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate the votes. But that's the opposite of what your Intelligence Committee assessment said, and it's the opposite of what you leaked to the media the moment you decided to do this on December 9th, 2016. We know the exact date because we know the exact date that the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN all ran with that narrative, even though the intelligence community work group thought the exact opposite. Barack Obama had to order them to come up with this hoax, and now he's sitting there changing the goalposts. Fascinating. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, then led by Marco Rubio. Well, hold on. That's in 2020. We're talking about 2016. And how does that cover your crimes? It doesn't cover your crimes. And what's amazing about this is that Barack Obama in no way in this statement says anything about the actual underlying accusation that he weaponized the intel agencies and the military, because many of these agencies are funded by the military. So he's the commander in chief. He's weaponizing the military against Donald Trump, changing the president's daily brief from exonerating Trump of Russia collusion. He did that because Donald Trump got those same briefs. So this wasn't secret information just for Barack Obama. It's something Trump was getting too. You have to understand that's a critical element. And there's a timeline there from December 9th through January 6th of 2017. Yes, the true insurrection date, January 6th, where Barack Obama ordered the intel agencies to change their assessment. This is the politicization of the American military, weaponization of the intel agencies in order to attack and destroy his political opponent. And it's very significant, says George Papadopoulos. So like, sorry, you get nothing. You don't pass go. Your statement makes no sense. It actually, it weirdly does the opposite. Makes you look guilty as hell. And this is what I voted for. People are very happy about this. Everybody responding. Important interview, critical moment in the history of the Republic. The process is the punishment. Let the process flow. By the end of this, the legacies and reputations of all of them will be in tatters. Time to get to the very bottom of this. This is great. This should be broadcast worldwide, and I want a mugshot. That's right. Uh-oh. People are dancing. Okay. People are posting dancing gifs to this. Fire with fire. We just had Josh Hawley on the program in the morning stream, and he said, yo, we're going to do it. Let's do it. You do it in the House, do it in the Senate. I asked directly, like, you're going to bring in Obama. And now I guess Senator Hawley isn't the leader of the Senate. That would be John Thune, but it's still a good get. Hawley says, yes, let's do it. Here we go. Do you expect there to be a full Senate investigation here? Do you expect there to be perhaps you calling back in Comey? We have the tape. It's too long to play the number of lies that Comey, Brennan, and Clapper have told before committees like yours. We have like 9 minutes of lies, Senator. And so will you be calling them back in? Perhaps will you be calling Barack Obama in to testify as to what he knew?
I would love to have Senate hearings. I think the more that we can expose this and bring it out into the light, transparency is fantastic. But Benny, I want to go back to something that you said just a second ago. At the end of all of that process, there needs to be action. Yes. And there's a huge value in getting the lies exposed. There's a huge value in getting these people exposed for what they did so that it never happens again. But there needs to be, on the back end of that, there needs to be some action. And right now, we have the Department of Justice. Right now, we have the U.S. attorneys, because thank goodness Donald Trump was reelected, and he is now putting in rule of law prosecutors back where they belong. We need the rule of law here. I'm sick and tired, and I think every American who believes in the Constitution is sick and tired of these two tiers of justice. That is what we have had for years. We talk about it in regard to the 2020 election, in regard to what they did to Trump at Mar-a-Lago, the raid, all of that stuff, the bogus prosecutions. But you and I both know it goes way back farther than that. We're seeing it now with this evidence. It's way earlier than that. We're talking about years now of shredding our Constitution, two tiers of justice. We've got to put an end to that.
Just a spectacular commentation by Senator Hawley. So it's wild what we learned in all of this, and all of the right people are very angry about it. And something that I didn't get to earlier, and something I want to get to now. James Comey is releasing like ISIS filmed hostage videos. I can't believe this is real. All of the right people are panicking here, and James Comey is one of them. They know that this is a very different Republican Party and that they've lost all of their power. People like Stephen Colbert are being fired. Shows like South Park are getting billions of dollars. They're losing in courts of law. Yesterday, Paramount and CBS News settled a $36 million payout to Donald Trump. ABC News, a $15 million payout to Donald Trump. The New York Times is being sued by Donald Trump. CNN is being sued by Donald Trump. PBS and NPR are being defunded. They're losing all of their power. Their mechanism for power is disintegrating. Nobody buys the hoaxes and the lies any longer. People threw that Epstein report in the trash from the Wall Street Journal. Now they can come get it too. They're getting sued. And so they've lost their power, and now they're panicking. The statement from Obama was a panic move. It didn't sound like Obama. It sounded like somebody who's very, very scared. Obama never won for keeping his yapper shut, constantly yapping about how Russians stole the election for Donald Trump. Now he's very, very silent about it. Comey. No insult to our friend Jamie Comer, who's chairman of the House Oversight. James Comey, the disgraced FBI director, decided to get a script written for him. I'll prove that. And then decided to get a ring light, a very cheap way to light yourself and look silly, put on a suit inside of, I don't know, like a spare bedroom in his house, and deliver this. Here we go. Listen.
Trump and the hacks who lead the Department of Justice are hammering at the dam day after day, trying to turn it into just another gold leaf covered Trump subsidiary. Our best hope is that good people will stay and do what Maureen asked. Have the courage to do the right thing always. You may get fired for acting that way, but there's honor in that, and nothing but disgrace for those who don't stand up. There are going to be hard weeks in the Trump era, and this was one for my family. But there are plenty of good people still in the department committed to doing things the right way, committed to the rule of law. For them, because of them, keep the faith.
So a couple of quick things here. It takes away the argument when what you can see here.
Stay.
Thank you. If we can just play this. So I'm going to watch it without any audio. You can see his eyes moving as he reads the script. And watch this. You know, the eyes darting back and forth as he tries to read, right there, as he tries to read the message, the words in front of him. Kind of takes away the authenticity of it, right? We do the whole show. We do hours and hours a day and like hundreds of recordings a week with zero script in front of us. We study these issues. We speak from the heart, and we just tell it like it is, right? Let it rip. Takes away the authenticity, obviously, of what he's saying. More importantly, they're scared. They wouldn't be doing this if they thought that this was just a joke. They're worried that they may end up in prison. And James Comey will be very popular in prison. Maybe they'll allow him to wear this shirt in the prison yard. Maybe James Comer can wear his Proud Dad rainbow shirt with the logo that he definitely wanted to turn that was the FBI logo under James Comey. This is definitely that's what the FBI turned into under James Comey. Yeah, and there's plenty of brotherhood there, if you know what I mean. Yeah, sure. You know what? Give Comey what he wants. All right, send him to prison. Proud Dad. Well, your daughter just got completely and totally fired in humiliation after losing the Diddy trial and losing Ghislaine Maxwell trial and losing Epstein in federal custody. So proud dad. And like woefully undercharging Sam Bankman fraud. Proud dad, cover up artist. It's great. Gutting the deep state. Barack Obama, James Comey. Here's the one final thought on this. They're really quiet, aren't they? You don't hear anything. We monitor CNN, MSNBC. You don't have the same people, the Weissmans, McCabe. All these people are paid contributors. They're like constant green room people at MSNBC. You don't have them on TV anymore. They're not saying anything about this. Peep, nothing. The lady doth protest too much. It really is amazing. And you can tell in the reaction to all of this who's truly guilty. Boy, oh boy. Obama and Comey are shrieking and screaming. A lot of them, probably the smarter ones, are dead silent. Okay, look forward to the results here. There was a big declassification this morning from Tulsi Gabbard. And this is something that is imperative to the country. It proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Barack Obama used and weaponized the intel agencies to create a false Russian hoax about Donald Trump. But it also proved something else fascinating. It also unveiled what was going on in this instance. This is Hillary Clinton falling like a slab of beef into a mysterious black van. Thank God for independent journalists filming this moment. A breakdown of this moment, if you will, because we've studied this footage like the Zapruder film almost. You can see Hillary Clinton wobbling. She's not able to actually hold her head straight. She's losing consciousness. She has no more autonomic nervous system operation. She's effectively dead. She's somebody who's like unable to stand on her own 2 feet. You can see that because you can see her shoe fall right off her foot here. As she is dragged into the van. She's so out of it. She's so completely cooked that her shoe, she doesn't even have the capacity to keep her feet in her shoes. Now, when does that happen? Well, parents know that happens when they're like taking a sleeping kid, an unconscious child, like out of the car, right? Your kid's asleep, you carry him out of the car. They don't even care, right? Shoe falls off. In what world does an adult, if you're like blackout drunk or you're out of your freaking mind, right? If you're blitzed out of your mind, you can see sloppy girl lose her shoe at the bar, maybe. But this was a matter of weeks before the presidential election in 2016. So what the hell happened here to Hillary Clinton? We now have some answers. Wild answers. Here we go. Russia hid Clinton health issues? What? What was Hillary Clinton actually suffering from here? Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, recent declassification exposed Russia had a stash of damaging details about Hillary Clinton that could have ended her campaign. Oh my, what were they exactly, and why didn't we know about them? Isn't it us, the American people, that are entitled to this information? Insider reports said that she was using strong sedatives due to worsening mental health. I'm sorry, say what now? It's probably going to piss off many of the feminists who are shrieking for their first female president, right? That like your first female president was suffering from severe mental health issues. A major knock, by the way, for Hillary Clinton, whose entire campaign was based on she's so strong and she's so capable and she's so mature and she's so experienced. Well, if she's having a mental health crisis just for running the campaign, clearly something's wrong there. Documents reveal serious medical problems like chronic fatigue and heart issues, which is most likely what you saw in her collapse there at the van. Secret meetings with religious groups where Clinton reportedly promised big State Department grants for support. Party insiders admitted to EU allies that they saw her as unfit and quietly hoped that she would lose, and Obama and party leaders found her health to be extraordinarily alarming. Obama pushed the hoax that Russia was helping Trump, targeting Hillary, yet they sat on this explosive intelligence that could have sunk her campaign. Well, this is exactly what they used against Joe Biden. Remarkably so. Hunter Biden, this past week, in an interview, said that they drugged up Joe Biden before the debate. Did he do it on purpose? We have that clip. We'll play it for you in a second. Here's the report. This is direct documents. We will always show you the direct source documents here. But this is the report explaining that Hillary Clinton had major health problems, extraordinarily alarming health prospects, serious negative impact on her ability to campaign. The information was kept in strictest secrecy. Even her closest advisors were not informed. They said she was suffering from intense psycho-emotional problems, including uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness. Huh? What? Clinton was placed on a daily regime of heavy tranquilizers. While afraid of losing, she remained obsessed with a thirst for power. This is directly from our own intel agencies on the information that the Russians had on Hillary. Goodness. So this was all a distraction mechanism to keep prying eyes away from the things that we were all able to see with our own two eyes. Like this. Remember this moment? We have this clip. Let's go ahead and listen to it, shall we? This time when Hillary Clinton had like a seizure on camera. Nobody decided to ask any questions. The subservient stenographers in the press decided to like giggle and tee-hee-hee along with her but are still unable to mask their horror at what Hillary Clinton does right here.
Did you talk about vice presidential possibilities with Senator Warren?
You guys have got to try the cold chai.
I've had it.
It is delicious, isn't it?
Okay.
What the literal hell? I know we have an emotive show. I take a lot of these issues very personally. A lot of this stuff, really matters to me, and we'll react accordingly. We spent the entire election night in 2024 screaming until our voices cracked, popping champagne bottles, jumping around. But I've never done anything like that. This looks like a medical seizure. And somebody was just, what the F is happening there? And there's a lot of clips of this, actually. There's a lot of clips of this. Here's a good one. Here's Hillary Clinton, literally, and this isn't from the campaign. This is right after the campaign. Hillary Clinton decided to flee the country, and Hillary Clinton fell effectively down the stairs, worse than anything we've ever seen Joe Biden do. Hillary Clinton, just straight up, loses, much like with the van, loses her balance, says, "Oh yeah, I'm good," and then falls again later in the video, is incapable. Let the video play. Is incapable of regaining her balance and then falls again. She's just doing stairs. And look at that. This is a deeply unhealthy person. This is a strangely and woefully degenerate, diseased old bat. I guess this is one of my favorites. This one's from the DNC convention. This, of course, is from the campaign. Hillary Clinton's reaction to balloons, which has been memed into infinity. What? Yeah, whoa! What is that? Hillary Clinton's reaction to the release of the Epstein list. Look, what the hell is going on there? That's not how normal people react. That's how people who are on drugs react. You're on drugs. You're on drugs. As of September 2016, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service had Democrat National Committee information that President Obama and party leaders found the state of Secretary Clinton's health to be extraordinarily alarming, and it could have led to a serious negative impact on the election prospects. This was kept in the strictest secrecy. Not even her top advisors were informed, but we were all able to witness it live. This one's crazy. Listen to Hillary Clinton try and get through just a quick 60-second speech here. She can't get through just the most basic of boilerplate campaign speeches without physically collapsing. I mean, this is as bad, if not worse, than what happened to Joe Biden. Here we go.
Represent inmates. Excuse me. Too much to say. That's been wow. Thank you, Hazel. That's been part of my mission. And representing poor people through the Legal Services Corporation. It was about making people's lives better. And it taught me that even if you're young and you don't have a powerful job, if you work at it, you stick with it, you can make a difference. You know,
sorry for that painfully long clip. Not like the last thing I ever want to do is turn this into a Hillary Clinton clip channel. But what the hell was that? Sometimes it's worth playing 90 seconds of that just to show you what they tried to pull on us. You know, did you ever see that at all? Like, was that clip ever played for you? Did anybody ever try and explain all of the seizures and the freakouts and the yelling and the screaming and the collapsing and the coughing, the barking like a dog? Remember this one? This one's wild. Hillary Clinton, in the middle of a campaign rally, just decides to start barking like a dog, like a total sociopath. Remember, and let me read this to you one more time before we play you this clip. Clinton was suffering from intensified psycho-emotional problems, including uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and she was given a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hillary Clinton just barking like a dog.
Caused by too much regulation.
You know?
By too much regulation.
You know?
What's wrong with Democrats? Like, what are you know, what's wrong? Like, why can't you just say it? Look at the people behind her. They all laugh. They're all like, it's like when a 2-year-old tries to perform a trick in front of you and it's a really bad trick and it's not impressive at all and you're like being kind and nice, but it's the president. Like, it's not a 2-year-old. You're looking at like the person who's supposed to be in charge of nuclear codes in the country and your children's future. Why are you laughing? This is horrifying. This is a horrifying thing to do. Something's clearly wrong with this person. She was physically unconscious at the September 11th ceremony and had to be thrown to the back of a van. Intensified psycho-emotional problems, including uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness. She was on heavy tranquilizers. I guess this makes sense. When you watch the seizures and you watch footage like this, you watch like look at the way that the reporters respond. Like, what the hell was that? Now it makes sense. Incredible. Will they ever have to answer for it? Just one final like button hook here on this question. It's very interesting. Hunter Biden said that his dad was drugged in order to kick him out of the Democrat primary process. I guess there was no primary, but in order to end his campaign, that he was drugged. This is what Hunter Biden says. Now, were the drugs given to him? Were they intended to harm his campaign? I don't know. They had the intended effect, though. I'll play you the Hunter Biden clip, and then I'll play you the results of what happens when you're on Ambien. Because he's right. Clearly, he's right. Okay? And I can't believe I'm saying this about Hunter Biden, but yes, he's dead on here. Here's Hunter Biden.
Exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times. Yeah. He's 81 years old. He's tired as shit. They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
So who gave him Ambien exactly? Who's they, Hunter? That would be the obvious follow-up question. Who's they? We hope to bring you the Hunter Biden interview. I will gladly interview Hunter Biden. I would love to do that. Who gives him Ambien? Do you agree to this? You know, side effects of Ambien, and I'm going to play you a clip here. You're going to love it. It's amazing to go back through. It seems like recent history, but there's so much that's happened. It's something that happened a year ago, which this did. It's like ancient history, but it's worth remembering. The side effects of Ambien are you have limited to no cognitive capacity. You're drowsy to the point of wobbliness and unconsciousness. You have a hard time memorizing names. You have a hard time memorizing or any ability to talk or walk. Dizziness, headache, diarrhea, memory loss, drowsiness, hallucinations, deep, fast breathing, nausea, anxiety, muscle pain, difficulty swallowing, chest pain, crying. Okay, here, watch this very short clip of Joe Biden and tell me, from the first word. Listen to the first thing. Do you remember how he walks onto the stage and he goes, ah, you knew there was a problem. Listen to this.
Well, how are you? Making sure that we're able to make
that?
every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody they pay. The millionaires pay 1%. So no one after I've not raised the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6, and wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
We know that this was obviously a massive health cover-up. Can I just say something that I know that the chat is saying right now, and our production chat is also saying, which is the withholding and the command that President Trump had to suffer through that and to not just take a baseball bat to his beleaguered opponent shows unmatched human restraint. Would you have had that restraint? It's lucky that I wasn't on that stage. Trump's reactions were great, but they were understated and subtle. They were reactions like this, where Donald Trump's just doing the same thing that we were all doing at home. Restraint is not something that President Trump, is known for. Look at this. But Donald Trump, being the master of this craft that he is, I think immediately figured out that something was horribly wrong with Joe Biden. We now know from his son, who was with him every step of the way, that Joe Biden was drugged here, something that we long speculated. And President Trump sensed that, I think, and understood that he was dealing with a deeply incapacitated foe. And instead of doing what he's done in multiple other debates that we've seen, decided to use restraint and to hold off and to then show the American public, let's let it speak for itself, the famous photo from the event. Oh, oof. Oh yeah, we did it, Joe. That's right. So now we have multiple Democrat health cover-ups. We know that Joe Biden was dealing also with terminal prostate cancer, stage 5, metastasized to the bones, which is a death sentence. And so what the hell's, listen, it's totally evil. What won't these people do for power? We have the privilege of one time on the program asking Rudy Giuliani about this. And it was Rudy Giuliani who actually set up Hillary Clinton for her side of beef slab throw into the van. We didn't know that we'd go here with the mayor, America's mayor, but sure as hell did. And so I guess it's worth replaying for you, ladies and gentlemen, right now. Rudy Giuliani explaining how he was actually able to set Hillary up for that era-defining van throw. Unconscious. Let's go. Oh, and here we go. Karoline Leavitt, ladies and gentlemen, just took the dais.
We have a special guest with us today who will
and is welcoming us.
But first, I would like to begin with a message from the White House to the families of the victims in the brutal murder case in Idaho, who were sharing their heart-wrenching stories about their loved ones before the court today and addressing the evil killer who took 4 precious souls. We are so sorry for the grief and the pain you have experienced at the hands of such a vicious and evil killer. Our nation grieves with you, and we will never forget the precious souls who were lost in this horrific act of evil. If it were up to the president, he would have forced this monster to publicly explain why he chose to steal these innocent souls. May God bless and watch over everyone affected by this unimaginable tragedy, especially the parents who lost their children. Let me begin with a few scheduling items off the top. Later this afternoon, President Trump will deliver the keynote address at the Winning the AI Race Summit here in Washington, D.C. President Trump believes it is non-negotiable that the United States wins the AI race, which is why today, President Trump will announce a bold and comprehensive AI action plan to sustain and enhance America's global AI dominance. Under President Trump's leadership, our country will lead the world in AI to secure a brighter future for all Americans, massively grow our economy, and protect our national security. The president will also sign 3 executive orders at the event this afternoon. On Friday morning, President Trump will travel to Scotland for a working visit that will include a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the historic US-UK trade deal. On the topic of trade, yesterday, President Trump accomplished something no other president has ever achieved. The president secured and announced 3 major trade deals with the Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan, all in one day. President Trump is finally putting a stop to our country getting ripped off. As a result of the president's successful negotiating tactics, many foreign markets are now being opened to American industries for the very first time, and harmful trade barriers are being broken down. Thanks to President Trump, these countries around the world are agreeing to open their markets to American-made products and goods for the first time, which will lead to a boom in sales and profits for American businesses right here at home. As President Trump said, he will only lower tariff rates if a country agrees to open their market to American-made products. If not, they will continue to face tariffs and pay a steep price to do business in the United States of America, which remains the best market on the face of the planet. Also this week, the president officially marked 6 months here at the White House. He made big promises to the American people on the campaign trail last year, and he has unquestionably delivered on those promises in record time. The president has defeated the Biden inflation crisis to make America affordable again. Core inflation is currently at its lowest level in 4 years, and prices for everyday goods are falling. The president's pro-growth policies have fueled massive job growth across our country. Since the president has taken office, our economy has added nearly 700,000 new jobs, with native-born American workers accounting for all job gains. The president has put the economic needs of families and of workers first. He signed the largest tax cuts for the middle class in American history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. We have also seen the president unquestionably deliver on his promise to secure our southern border. He has ended Biden's illegal alien invasion, and for 2 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country. The president has also, as you all know, initiated the largest mass deportation campaign in American history. The president has also restored law and order to make America safer, another campaign promise he vowed to the American public. The United States of America is currently on track for its lowest murder rate on record, following this shift from the last administration to the Trump administration. The president has also ended Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy. U.S. oil and natural gas production are now surging, and summer gas prices reached their lowest level since 2021. The president has also rebuilt our military, another campaign promise. He just signed the largest military investment in decades to modernize our armed forces with cutting-edge technology to replenish our stockpiles and provide American troops with the best equipment in the world. The U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force have all reached their recruitment goals months in advance. The president has restored America's standing on the world stage, brought back peace through strength, and brokered numerous peace agreements to end wars. Again, all of this in just 6 months. He obliterated Iran's nuclear program to end the war between Israel and Iran, got NATO members to raise their defense spending to 5% of GDP, and secured a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, as well as brokering a historic agreement between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The president has already received 3 different Nobel Peace Prize nominations for his peacemaking efforts. Again, all of this progress, all of these accomplishments have occurred in just 6 months. We are truly just getting started, and we look forward to working with all of you for the next 3.5 years. On another matter, over the past few days, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has unveiled shocking new evidence that former President Barack Obama and top aides in the Obama administration conspired to subvert President Trump's 2016 election victory and undermine the democratic will of the American people. While publicly pretending to engage in a peaceful transfer of power, in private, former President Obama went to great and nefarious lengths to try to sow discord among the public and sabotage his successor, President Trump. The new evidence released by the Director of National Intelligence, who is here with me today, confirms that the Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump in an effort to try to delegitimize his victory before he even took the oath of office. The truth is that President Trump never had anything to do with Russia, and the Russia collusion hoax was a massive fraud perpetuated on the American people from the very beginning. And the worst part of this is Obama knew that truth, and so did all of the other corrupt officials involved in this scam, including former CIA Director John Brennan, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former FBI Director James Comey, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and many others. Director of National Intelligence Gabbard's report further confirms what we already knew. There was no collusion, no corruption, except on the part of Barack Obama and the weaponized intelligence agencies at the time. The Russia hoax was a blatant lie, all ginned up by Democrat political operatives that were signed off on by then President Obama and leaked to the news media to launch a years-long witch hunt against President Trump and his first administration. Allies of the president, including his own son, Donald Trump Jr., were disgustingly smeared as Russian assets, and some even had their lives destroyed because of this vicious lie. The president's first 2 years in office had this fake distraction hanging over it, and endless resources, time, and political capital were spent having to debunk these lies from the highest levels of our government. Now, nearly 10 years later, thanks to the declassification of documents by Director Gabbard, the truth has finally come to light. And this truth vindicates President Trump, his family, and his many allies and associates who were smeared with defamatory lies. President Trump was right from the beginning about all of this, and we are grateful that justice can be served. Now, we have even more damning evidence implicating those who tried to sabotage a duly elected president and did grave material harm to our republic. Thanks to additional important work done by CIA Director Ratcliffe, Committee Chairman Rick Crawford over the past few months, a newly declassified 2020 report prepared by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, which DNI Director Gabbard has declassified, found that the intel community did not have any direct information that Russian President Vladimir Putin wanted to help elect President Trump in 2016. And in fact, Russia was actively preparing for a Hillary Clinton victory. But at the unusual direction of Barack Obama at the time, the intel community published implausible intelligence suggesting otherwise. Why? To sabotage the incoming president. This is truly one of the greatest political scandals in American history. And reporters at legacy outlets, some of which are sitting in this room today, like the New York Times and the Washington Post, were ridiculously awarded Pulitzer Prizes for their perpetuation of this hoax. It's well past time for those awards to be stripped from the journalists who received them. It is not journalism to propagate political disinformation in service of the Democrat Party and those in the intelligence community who hand over out of context and fake intelligence to push a false political narrative. I will now pass it over to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to speak more about all of this, and then we will open it up for questions afterwards. Tulsi.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified Oversight Majority Staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. The records that we released on Friday that were ODNI records, Senator Chuck Grassley's release on Monday of what is known as the Clinton Annex, which was an appendix to the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's 2018 report, as well as the House Intelligence Committee's majority oversight report that we're releasing today, all come back to and confirm the same report. There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people. I'm going to go over the key findings from the House Intelligence report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017. First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous. The intelligence community assessment omitted reliably sourced information, such as how some Russian intelligence officials were quote unquote planning for candidate Hillary Clinton's victory, while others assessed neither Trump nor Clinton would respect Russia's interests. As was reflected in the ODNI documents that we released on Friday, multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the US election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump. On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the president, President Obama. It directed senior intelligence community agency heads and created an intelligence community assessment limited to just 5 analysts using one principal drafter. This is not something that occurs in the normal path of producing an intelligence community assessment that reflects the views across the intelligence community. The production of this intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directives directly from the president and senior political appointees, especially the former director of the CIA, John Brennan. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report also shows how later that same day, on December 9th, Brennan ordered the publication of quote-unquote substandard reporting on Russian activities, which had previously been withheld from publication of prior assessments because the information was judged, quote, to have not met long-standing publication standards. Some of the information later used in the Obama-ordered assessment over the objections of veteran CIA officers was, quote-unquote, unclear or from unknown sources. The Intelligence Committee's Oversight Report reveals that CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment, stating, quote, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Yet, the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which explicitly stated, quote, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances when possible by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him, end of quote. The CIA and FBI, then led by John Brennan and James Comey, expressed high confidence in this judgment, while the NSA expressed moderate confidence. Yet, as the report we released today shows, the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, did not cite any report where Putin indicated helping Trump win was an objective. The opposite is true. With regards to the Steele dossier, we now know that one of the source documents that the Obama administration used in the creation of this intelligence assessment in January of 2017 was none other than the discredited, unverified Steele dossier. The House Intel report states, quote, contradicting public claims by then CIA Director Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into this intelligence assessment. The dossier was referenced in the intelligence assessment's main body text and further detailed in a 2-page assessment annex. John Brennan lied, and he denied using this dossier in this intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered because he knew it was discredited. It was a politically motivated, manufactured document. He directed senior CIA officials to use it anyway. CIA officer told the House Intelligence Committee staff as they investigated this, quote, the director of the CIA, John Brennan, refused to remove it. and when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, quote, "Yes, but doesn't it ring true?" Even the bipartisan Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report published in 2020 criticized the FBI's handling of the Steele dossier, noting its completely unverified nature and purposeful sidestepping of intelligence community procedures in its use. Now, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, and others, including their mouthpieces in the media, knowingly lied as they repeated the contrived narrative that was created in this January 2017 intelligence community assessment with high confidence as though it were fact. John Brennan, as CIA director, stated in a memo to his agency staff in December of 2016, saying, quote, "There is strong consensus among us on the scope, nature, and intent of Russian interference in our presidential election." This was reported by NBC News, confirming that Brennan, along with James Clapper and James Comey, agreed with the CIA's assessment that Russia intervened to help Trump win the presidency. As Obama's director of national intelligence, James Clapper was tasked with overseeing the creation of this assessment in January of 2017 by President Obama, and he expressed confidence in its findings. In a 2018 interview with the Harvard Gazette, he talked about how he provided Trump with the same classified assessment that President Obama received, which included the high confidence judgment that Putin directly ordered the hacking and election interference. Clapper then went on to add, "I think they, the Russians, actually influenced the outcome." This is a brief summary of the details that you'll find within the House Majority Staff's report in their investigation into the Obama-directed January 2017 intelligence community assessment that leads us to the very same conclusion that we announced in the release of our documents on Friday. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence to undermine and usurp the will of the American people in that election and launch what would be a years-long coup against the incoming president of the United States, Donald Trump. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tulsi. And we do want to take questions on this topic while the director has time for this topic. She will leave. I'm happy to take questions on other matters after that. But if anyone has questions for Director Gabbard, you're welcome to ask them. We'll start with our new media seat as always. Emily, go ahead.
Thank you. And Director Gabbard, this one is for you. Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former
The
President
evidence,
Obama?
correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence intelligence that confirm that fact.
Ed, go ahead.
Director Gabbard, thank you. So just in two questions, but to begin on that. The president yesterday, you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I am not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
The Senate Intelligence Committee spent several years looking into this and unanimously agreed in a bipartisan fashion, Secretary of State Rubio was a member of that committee, that there was no political interference. There was a years-long Justice Department investigation into this as well that also concluded no political interference. So help us from a 50,000-foot level explain, what do you now have that refutes those two?
Sure. I will encourage you, in my role as the Director of National Intelligence, my job, again, as I said when I came into this role, was to make sure that we are telling the truth to the American people and that we are ensuring that the intelligence community is not being politicized. So I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you and the media to conduct honest journalism and the American people to see for yourself in the documents that we've released now, close to 200 pages, that point in multiple references, multiple examples, to include comments that have been made by senior intelligence professionals, who are some still working within these agencies today, that confirm the conclusions that we have drawn, that President Obama directed an intelligence community assessment to be created to further this contrived false narrative that ultimately led to a years-long coup to try to undermine President Trump's presidency.
And it's your belief that those two previous investigations missed that or covered it up?
I'm telling you to look at the evidence. Look at the evidence and you will know the truth.
John.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Director Gabbard. You declassified these documents, if I'm not mistaken, Friday of last week, correct?
We released them on Friday of last week, the first tranche, yes.
This isn't the first time that President Trump has been president of the United States. He was president from 2017 to 2021. Couldn't the prior DNI under President Trump have declassified these documents? And why didn't that DNI do that at that time?
I can't speak to what happened there. There were several DNIs under the first Trump administration. President Trump faced many challenges from those who were working in the government who sought to undermine his presidency. That's been clearly detailed. What I can speak to is the fact that this was one of the first things that we started to investigate here within this Trump administration and have released the results upon the conclusion of our investigation.
And then my second question has to do with what intelligence agencies around the world have said about Russia, that they have tried to influence elections in the United States, in France, in Germany, in the UK. Do you disagree with that? Do you believe that Russia is a bad actor as it relates to trying to influence elections?
I'll point back to the intelligence that President Trump has ordered declassified, that we have declassified and released, that the intelligence reflects Russia's motives were to try to sow discord and chaos within the U.S. election, which is a clear distinction from showing a preference for or against a specific candidate, which is what the Obama manufactured intelligence document alleges, that Russia preferred Donald Trump and tried to help Donald Trump get elected. Again, going back to the most important point here, with the intent to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump's election and therefore subvert the will of the American people who chose to send him to the White House.
Reagan. Thanks, Caroline. Director Gabbard, Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. You laid out that the documents revealed that the Obama administration did not publish a December 2016 presidential daily briefing that demonstrated that Russia did not steal the election. Trump was receiving these briefings at the time because he was president-elect. Are you of the view that that information was kept out of the briefing because then President-elect Donald Trump would have seen it?
I don't have any documents that speak to exactly what the new guidance was that was given as the reason for pulling that document, which, by the way, still has never been published until we released it last week, Friday. One could assume that they didn't want President Trump to see a document that came from the intelligence community that would contradict the Russia hoax narrative that began through the Hillary Clinton campaign with the Steele dossier.
One more, maybe either for you or Caroline. The president said yesterday that Obama committed treason. Do you or the White House believe that the Supreme Court's immunity decision protects Obama from prosecution?
Look, I can speak to the president's feelings on this matter. He spoke to all of you yesterday in the Oval Office, but I also spoke to him about this morning. And he wants to see all those who perpetuated this fraud against our country, who betrayed our country and the Constitution, to be thoroughly investigated and held accountable. And it's been 10 years of this. And I would just add, based on everything the director has said and declassified, all of you in this room should go through it and take a look at this report and review the intelligence, because unfortunately that hasn't happened. And many of the people who perpetuated this hoax, Clapper, Andy McCabe, James Comey, and many others, have been hired by major networks in this room to go on television and continue to spew these lies, knowing that they are lies. And If you all recall, just flashback to 2016 and the years after, the entire Trump 1 presidency was embroiled in this scandal that was perpetuated by the Democrat Party. And you had major Democrat Party officials in this city, namely Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, who went on television and told the American people, Donald Trump is an asset of Russia. It was a lie. They always knew it. Hillary Clinton herself said that President Trump would be a puppet for Putin. Senator Tim Kaine at the time called President Trump Vladimir Putin's defense lawyer. Adam Schiff stated, and one of the worst things a lawmaker can do is to tell the American people, I know something you don't know, it's just classified and I can't tell you. And that's what he said. I can tell you that the case is more than that. I can't go into the particulars, but there's more than circumstantial evidence now. And not enough people in this room, not enough journalists in this country pushed Adam Schiff to say, what are you talking about? What evidence do you have? Everybody just ran with the lies, and it led to impeachments. It led to the division of our country. Unfortunately, so many Americans, from listening to outlets in this room, believed in these lies. And it's a complete scam, and it's a scandal, and the president wants to see accountability for that. Phil.
Thank you. Question for Director Gabbard. A spokesperson for former President Obama said in a statement earlier this week, quote, nothing in the documents issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. How do you respond to critics like former President Obama and also others on the Hill who say that the administration is conflating apples and oranges here, conflating allegations of actual hacking of voter machines and allegations of interference generally?
I think it's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal and negative action towards the American people and our democratic republic. The answer to that statement can very clearly be found throughout all of the documents that we have released. Again, showing that Russia has took action to try to sow discord in the election, but showed no preference for or against any singular candidate.
You've long been an opponent of weaponization in government. How do you respond to criticism that referring Obama administration officials and even potentially the former president is just more weaponization, and this is a potential race to the bottom?
I think that's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies and knowing that it would and could then be used for all of the actions that came after.
Karoline, and I would just add, there needs to be accountability for that weaponization, Phil, that we've seen. And no one has been a victim of the weaponized government more than President Trump, not just because of this political scandal. You all recall his house was raided. So I think, it's very disingenuous for people to say, how dare they speak of former President Obama about this based on evidence and based on intelligence, when the former president of the United States, Donald Trump's home was raided, when he was forced to sit in a Manhattan courtroom and many other courtrooms across the country for crimes he never committed, when he was impeached and indicted, and the entire country witnessed that. That's the weaponization of justice. Now the president is back because the American people see the truth. Nearly 80 million Americans reelected him back to this office, and he believes that we need to have justice and accountability. And I think the nearly 80 million Americans who reelected him agree with that. Caitlin.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions for Director Gabbard just on this. Director Gabbard, you referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
Well, first, I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report as being one and the same. I think you said the intelligence community. The Senate Intelligence Committee has a very different function than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The evidence and the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Karoline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians, all of these lies that were never true. And he also said at that time, we discovered deeply troubling actions taken by the FBI under Comey, particularly their acceptance and willingness to rely on the Steele dossier without verifying its methodology or sourcing. The Steele dossier that many outlets in this room ran as the gospel truth, and it was cooked up and paid for by the Clinton campaign. As for your second question, Caitlin, I think who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to. And that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made. Does anyone else have questions for Director Gabbard? And then we'll turn it over to a couple other questions. Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Director Gabbard, two follow-ups on questions that have been asked. You mentioned the previous DNIs during the president's first term. One of them reports to you right now, if I'm not mistaken, John Ratcliffe. So have you not spoken to him about why this information was not declassified during the first term?
He was in that position for a very short period of time. The work that began back then, we have picked up and absolutely completed. We are continuing to investigate this. Additional whistleblowers are now coming forward because they see an opportunity for the truth to come to light. And as Karoline said, for real accountability to be brought forward. The accountability is the essential part of this. We can show the truth, reveal the truth. The accountability needs to occur to be able to start to restore that trust and in the integrity of our democracy.
And then just quickly, I know you said you would leave the charging to DOJ, but the statute of limitations on conspiracy is 5 years. So what else could they possibly pursue besides treason?
I think that's a great question for Attorney General Pam Bondi. We're providing all of the evidence, all of the intelligence that we have, both redacted and unredacted versions, referring it to the Department of Justice and the FBI.
We'll take one more, Charlie. Go ahead.
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's health? The report said that it was from sourced from the DNC. Have you seen that information, or do you think that maybe Russia was overemphasizing what they had?
All I have seen is what the Intelligence Committee have reported through their investigation. I think the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information, some of which I detailed here. You'll find the rest in the report prior to the election to help Donald Trump win. They specifically withheld what they had on her, the most damning information, because they thought that she would win the election. They had plans to release it just prior to her inauguration to, again, sow discord and chaos in America.
And if I may, on Jeffrey Epstein, can you rule out that he was connected in some way to any kind of intelligence, either foreign or domestic?
I haven't seen any evidence or information that reflects that. If anything comes before me that changes that in any way, support the president's statement loud and clear. If any credible evidence comes forward, he wants the American people to see it.
Great. Director Gabbard, we thank you for your time today. I know you're a busy woman, so we'll let you get out of here, but thank you so much. Okay, I know there's many issues going on today across the world and here at home. If you have any other further questions, I'm happy to take them. Ed, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. So the Japan trade deal, is that Japan trade deal the start of this number of trade deals that the Treasury Secretary says we're going to see by August 1st?
I think it is. I mean, as you said, we had Japan yesterday. We also had Indonesia, and we had the Philippines as well. The president announcing all three. He came in as the closer in all three of those. I've said many times from this podium that the president's trade team has been in active talks and discussions with many countries around the world, and you've all been anxiously awaiting what those countries were. Now you know three of them, and there's many more to go. We have now sent 25 letters to countries around the world. But just to reiterate this Japan deal, for those at home who may have missed it, Japan will now pay a 15% tariff versus the reciprocal rate of 24% that they initially had. Auto and auto parts tariffs have been reduced to 15%. But the centerpiece of this deal now is the president got Japan to commit to $550 billion in investments to revitalize American industries. And these funds will be spent at President Trump's discretion and direction into key industries such as energy, semiconductors, critical minerals, pharmaceuticals, and shipbuilding. And the U.S. will retain 90% of the profits from any investments made by this $550 billion fund. This was originally a $400 billion investment that President Trump then negotiated to an increase of $150 billion, making it a $550 billion deal for the American people. And I just want to emphasize, Ed, I see you have a follow-up, but it's very important. Japan has agreed to open their markets to many very key sectors and American-made products that have really faced very strict tariff and non-tariff barriers prior. So thanks to the president, Japan's markets will now be open to American-made products and goods. This is big news for our tech companies and our farmers as well.
On Monday, the Treasury Secretary is going to Stockholm to talk to the Chinese delegation. What does the president hope to get out of that meeting? Are there deliverables?
I won't speak to any deliverables or set expectations. I'll let the Secretary of Treasury do that. But I did speak to him yesterday about his upcoming trip, and he looks forward to continuing discussions with his Chinese counterparts. The president has ensured that we have a good continuing working relationship with China that benefits the United States. And so the Secretary of Treasury will be obviously discussing those key matters, but I'll let him set the expectations.
One more, if I may.
Sure.
Given what the DNI just said and laid out, does President Trump believe that President Obama should go to jail for something?
Look, the president believes that this matter needs to be thoroughly investigated, and anyone convicted of crime should be held accountable in this country. Go ahead.
Special Envoy Wickoff is headed overseas again.
Good to see you, Olivia. I haven't seen you since the campaign trail.
It's good to see you. He's headed back overseas. Can you give us a sense of what the marching orders are to some of the people he'll be meeting with, and specifically as it relates to Gaza and ongoing talks there?
Yes, Special Envoy Wickoff is headed to Europe, where he will meet with key leaders from the Middle East to discuss the ongoing ceasefire proposal to end this conflict in Gaza and to release the hostages. These are very sensitive negotiations that are currently taking place. I spoke to Special Envoy Wickoff last night about them. I will let him speak further on the matter. But the president and Special Envoy Wickoff has made the administration's goals clear. We want this ceasefire to happen as soon as possible, and we want these hostages to be released. Go ahead.
Caroline, a Florida federal judge has refused to allow the Epstein grand jury materials to be released. Does the president want the administration or Department of Justice to appeal that ruling?
That was just breaking as the director and I were coming out here, so I haven't had a chance to talk to the president about it. I understand there are 2 other requests from the Department of Justice that are ongoing, but I'll let this president speak to whether he wants to see an appeal in the Department of Justice. I'm sure can give you a statement on that as well.
And is he supportive of the effort to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell? I know that Todd Blanchard mentioned that earlier this week.
The president spoke to this yesterday, and he said he thinks it's an appropriate idea. Kelly.
What is the accountability that you would like to see if this current president is the one who brought the case to the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Roberts made clear in his opinion that a sitting president's responsibilities in office cannot lead to prosecution, immunity? So what is it the President Trump wants regarding President Obama, given that fact? And the special counsel at the time, Durham, when that Supreme Court matter was not in effect, could have charged anyone and did not. So on those 2 points, how do you respond?
Look, the president has made it clear that he wanted these documents to be declassified. He wanted the American people to see the truth, and now he wants those who perpetuated these lies and this scandal to be held accountable. As for what accountability looks like, as the director said, it's in the Department of Justice's hands, and we trust them to move this ball
Well,
forward.
you would agree
Stephanie.
President Obama cannot be charged based on that immunity.
Again, I'll leave that to the Department of Justice. Stephanie.
In light of the Japan deal, are sectoral tariffs now up for negotiation with trading partners? And in a similar note, are these negotiators asking for investment funds, sort of like what Japan had agreed to?
As for sectoral tariffs, I understand that the president continues to be in talks with our Secretary of Commerce. We have made commitments on various sectoral tariffs, as you know. The Department of Commerce has initiated studies to then move forward with implementing those sectoral tariffs. So I would defer you to them for further comment. Meredith.
I wanted to ask if the White House has any update on the Commerce Department employee who's been detained in or banned from exiting China, and if there are any efforts to get him out.
I can assure you and the American people that the administration is actively monitoring the situation and engaged, but typically we don't comment on individual cases like this as we are sorting them out. Sure.
Yes.
Behind you, Dr. Harper. Sorry. Go ahead to the lady
And then
sitting
after
down
me?
in the blue. Yes.
Okay.
What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Caroline also. Caroline Boda with the Center Square.
Great.
So Republicans in the Senate today said that they are pulling back on legislation to impose sanctions on Russia after the president said he wants to act unilaterally. Can you elaborate on what the president intends to do?
Look, the president has been in very close communication with his friends in the Senate, particularly Senator Lindsey Graham on this issue. But the president has always maintained, he's the commander in chief and the president for a reason. And he has been deeply involved in this conflict since the beginning. And so any decisions that are made with respect to sanctions, the president wants to reserve that authority and that right to himself. Jasmine.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions for you. The first on AI. Does President Trump support federal agencies contracting with Elon Musk's AI company?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so he would want the DOJ to then cancel the contract with Roth.
I'll talk to him about it, yes.
And my second question, just, obviously the developments with the Epstein case with the judge, but I wonder, has the White House counsel, the DOJ explored any other documents that could be released to the public that don't have to do with that grand jury testimony?
To my knowledge, the Department of Justice has moved forward with the request to unseal that grand jury testimony. And as you know, they have also moved forward with interviewing Ms. Maxwell, which I believe will be taking place very soon. Go ahead. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a question about Paul Ingracia, the OSC nominee who faces a Senate committee hearing tomorrow. Tom Tillis said that he wouldn't vote for Ingracia if a vote came to the Senate floor. 24 worker advocacy groups have said that they don't support his nomination. What is the White House planning to do to sort of turn the tide or convince legislators that they should vote for him?
The White House is always in communication with members of both the Senate and the House, and we stand by the president's nominees. Sure.
In connection with the Mueller investigation, a grand jury indicted 13 Russians. President Putin has said he will never extradite those men. Given the new information that Ms. Gabbard has found, what's the administration's position on that case? Should those charges be dropped?
I don't have an update for you on that case, but I'll check in with the National Security Council and our team will get you something. Sure.
Thank you so much. So Fani Willis and Jack Smith separately, they both charged President Trump with conspiracy to defraud the United States and a conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election. And now it turns out we're confirming that Obama and his cronies were doing that the whole time in 2016 on a massive scale, falsifying documents and having their intel agencies do this. What does this say about the 2020 election? And also, what's your thoughts on the irony here?
There is a lot of irony, especially for the party of the Democrat Party, who claims to be for democracy. We often heard throughout the 2024 campaign, they were calling this president a threat to democracy. And now I think the declassification of all of these documents proves that they were indeed the true threat to democracy. And as I said repeatedly today, there needs to be justice and accountability for that. You all will hear directly from the president later this afternoon at the AI Summit here in Washington, D.C., scheduled to speak later in a few hours. So we will see you all there. Thank you very much.
Cooking. Holy moly. Well, the major takeaways there is that Tulsi Gabbard is a contender for 2028, man. If you were to do a poll, and we should put this up. Why don't we put up a poll? If you were to do a poll of who is the single most popular member of the Trump administration, I bet Tulsi would be at the very tippy top. She just did an unbelievable job. We went scorched earth on Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton called Tulsi Gabbard a Russian asset, and now who's laughing? Tulsi Gabbard also wearing a very important outfit here. This is the outfit that Tulsi Gabbard wears when she's about to go do a hatchet job on Hillary. She's always wearing all pure white. It's very interesting. This is what she wore at the debate when she disemboweled Kamala Harris. When Tulsi walks out wearing pure white, you know you're going to get an absolute scorcher. We're going to process all of this, but I think what's really important is that everybody had to just shut the F up and listen to the evidence and data presented against many of the outlets in the room, like CNN, Washington Post, and New York Times, that they were complicit, obviously, in this massive cover-up and this huge scam. Tulsi Gabbard also confirming what we had previously talked about, which is that Hillary Clinton had major psychotic health breakdowns during the 2016 election and was heavily medicated. Very interesting stuff. Wild twists and turns abound. Karoline Leavitt shutting down the fake news as usual, and a lot to process as we look forward to doing a recap video on this. It'll be up shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us live. We are massive fans of, well, what the administration is doing, but more importantly, massive fans of the transparency that's happening right now. You've never seen anything like it. And we look forward to more of it. And we're going to lock and load and make sure we get it. One of these days, I'm going to be in that digital media seat. Okay. Mark my words. I've been sending some texts. One of these days, don't worry, it'll happen. And we'll bring the heat when it does. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching along with us. Godspeed. God bless you. In the end, we win. It's your boy, Benny. See ya.
Because once the winner is declared after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. Like almost everything else he talks about. He does not.
Out of my way. Okay. What you gotta do is you gotta bring the needle down in a stabbing motion.
We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest. These storms come through and wipe out entire sections of counties in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming.
But these guys think that we need to run away from all values in order for us to lead. I say, you. How are we getting those people back from El Salvador?
Ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest kings, and their dying legacy, media deal reads. Soon will the Benny Show come to mind us all from lives for fun. Feed the gold and bring the gun, we sail for #1. come to mine the salt from lids for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for #1, the biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest king.